Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are going to learn about the Python list, which is one of the most important data type of Python and the core data type. Okay, so without wasting any further time, let's get started. So what exactly is a Python list? Python list is, as said, it is one of the core and very important data type of Python. So a list is a mutable and ordered collection of elements. Now the elements can be of a different data type. Okay. Now, if you have worked with any other programming language like a C, C++, or Java, where we can store the elements of similar type, which we normally call it as an array. But a list is very different because it also store elements, but of different data types. So we can store integer, we can store float, okay, and we can store string and even another list, so that will be a nested list. And not even list, we can store tuples, we can store dictionary. Every type of data type we can store inside a list, so it's not like it will have only similar type of data types. Okay, now how to define a list? Now we can define a list with the opening and closing square brackets, and that is how to define a list, and we are going to look at it in a while. Okay, and we are going to learn very important methods of list, and by which we can perform the list operations. And uh, these are the important methods, as you can see over here, and that is, okay, the append method. We are going to look at the insert method, the extend method, the remove method, pop and clear method. So methods basically are the functions by which we can perform operation onto a list. Okay, so one by one we are going to learn this method. First is we are going to define a list. So how to do that? Let's switch to HR. So the first thing that we are going to do is define a list. Now, how to define a list? You can take any variable name like a is equal to and then the opening and square brackets. But normally you might have seen in everywhere, okay, almost all in any website, we have this capital L that is used to define the variable. That is, it denotes the name, that is the list, but we can use any variable name, it does not matter. So we can have a variable a or a capital L, it does not matter. Okay, so there are two lists right now, so this is like two lists we have. The first list is with the name a and the second list is the capital L. We can also define a list with the function called as list. So what this is going to do is this is going to create an empty list. Over here also this is an empty list. Okay, right now there are no elements inside the list. Okay, now how to define a list with some elements? So I can have L. As I said, it is just a variable name, and then I can have the opening and square brackets, and then I can have some numbers, and I can have some string over here like my name and so on. So this is also a list. Now we have defined a list, and we have also have there are some, while defining we have some elements inside the list. So you can have a empty list as what we did before, or you can have a list with some elements already. Okay, so this also defines a list. Now, very important thing to understand that list is a iterable. Iterable means, okay, the elements are stored and we can iterate over the items or the elements of a list, just like a string. String is also a sequential data type, means iterable. Okay, for example, now I'm just going back to the string. For example, if we have a variable a and it has a string that is Python programming, right? Even this is a iterable data type since we have that index value. Okay, so with the index value, as what I have shown you in the previous video, using that index value, we can access the elements of that particular string. The major difference over here is list is immutable I mean to say, the string is immutable and list is mutable data type, which means we can change the element of the list, but we cannot do the same with the string data type, right? For example, if I say, a of 0 and I try to give something like r. So what I'm trying to do over here is a of 0, basically the index 0, which is referring to the alphabet P, and I'm trying to store r. This is not possible and it is going to give you an error as what you can see over here. Why? Because strings are immutable, whereas list is a mutable data type and they are iterable. So if I say for I, okay, first I will just show the example with a string. Strings are also iterable, lists are also iterable, but strings are immutable, lists are mutable. Okay, that's the difference. So if I have something like Python programming, okay, and then I can iterate over the every single character of the string, like for I in, and I can straight away use that variable a, and straight away I can print I. Now what is I going to print? I mean every uh, I is going to have every character from this particular string, and it is going to print every character. So if I run this, you can see it has printed every character, that is P, Y, T. And since we are using the print function, by default, the cursor comes to the next line. And this is why we have it in this form, right? This is iterable. Similarly, even a list is a iterable data type. So if you have something like L over here, now things are different. It is going to take every element from that particular list. Now, every element are separated by comma over here, right? You can see the comma. Okay, so there are three numbers and one string element. So how this is going to print? So it is going to consider after the comma, whatever we have, it is going to consider that as an independent element. So if I run this, you can see the output 1, 34, 56, and then a J. Okay, because this is a complete one element. The string element is one complete element. Okay, so it is going to print that element. So currently there are four elements inside this list. As you can see, there are three numbers and one string element. As I said that inside the list we can have different data types. As you can see over here, there are three numbers, that is integer numbers, and we have one string element. We can also have another list like this, 1 comma 2. So this is called as a nested list. Now we haven't worked with the other data types like the tuples and the dictionary, but just for this example, I'm also using one tuple. Over here, this is a tuple which we are going to look at it in the future videos. And I'm also going to add a dictionary as well. So this is going to be my dictionary. Okay, so over here, this is a nested list 1 comma 2, or for this, let me just give some another number like 12 and 14. Okay, and this is a tuple and this is a dictionary. Just for the demonstration, I'm adding every the other data types as well, like the tuples, the list, and the dictionaries, which are also very important data types of Python. And if I run this, so obviously it is going to print all the elements of the list. And if I run this, now you can see the output over here. That is 1, 34, 56, then the string, that is a J, and then the nested list. Okay, the list inside the list, and then the tuple, and then the dictionary. Right. So list is a very, very powerful data type, and we quite often use this data type. Okay, so this is how we can have different types of data types inside a list. Now, to calculate the number of items that we have inside a list, we have a common function which we normally use for every iterable data type, and that is the len function. So we can always use, for example, like a is equal to and then the len function, and you can just pass that list that we have defined, and that is L. So what this is going to give, this is going to print the length of that list, and the length will be the number of elements that the list has. So if I run this, you can see that okay, I'm just printing the list over here. I'm going to print A. So we are going to have the number of elements, and the number of elements, that is the length of the list, is 7, because there are 7 elements inside the list. Now that we have learned some basics of the list, how to define a list and how a list can have different data types, we are going to understand the methods for the list operation. The first method that we are going to look at is the append method, which is used to add the element inside the list. So how to use a append method? That is, if I have a list and I do not want to define the elements, I just want to define an empty list. Right now, this list is empty. So if I use a print function and I use that L, so it is going to print the empty list as what you can see over here. But then now I'm going to add elements to the list. Okay, and that is L dot, that is a dot notation, and then the append function, the append method, and I can have any element like maybe number 12. Please remember that this append method takes one argument, one element. Okay, now if I run this, what is going to happen over here is, let me just print that L over here, and now if I run this, you can see that first I printed the list which was empty, and now there is an element that is an integer number, that is 12, right? So 12 is an integer number which is added to the list. The append function basically adds every element at the end of the list. So if I do something like this, L dot append, and this time maybe I'm just passing a string, right? And then again I will print the list. And you can see the output over here. First I added 12, so it printed 12 with this particular statement, and then I added Python, that is a string element. So every element will be added at the end of the list. And this is how a append method basically works. But what if the list has, if I'm adding a list, okay, I'm appending a list. So how to do that? Okay, I can do that like L dot append, and I can have a list directly like this, 1 comma 2. So there are two elements inside that list. So this will be added as a nested list, what we had actually defined before. So if I run this, and now you can see, okay, I'm not printing that, so I will just print that list, and now you can see that output over here, that is 12. That was the first element, then Python, and then this is a nested list. So we can also add a nested list. We have directly defined it, but now we have added that using the append method. So very quickly we can add another elements as well with a different data type. So I can have L dot append, and I can have maybe a tuple over here, 1 comma 2. Okay, and then print the list, and you can see the output over here, that is over here, right? Now that's the tuple that we have added. Similarly, we can also add dictionaries as well. So I hope that the append method is very much clear. Append method is going to add the element to the list, and every element gets added at the end of the list. Now, the second most important method that we are going to learn is the insert method. How does the insert method basically works is, we can insert an element somewhere in between of the list, anywhere depending on the index value. So for example, I can have L dot, and I will say insert, and then I have to specify the index value. Now please remember, since list is a iterable data type, right? We can individually access the elements of the list. For example, I will just show you. I can use the print, and I have L, and then I can say 0. So what this is going to do, this is going to access the first element, that is 12. So if I run this, you can see at the end it has only printed 12 because 0 will basically refer to the first element. So this is a 0. It is similar to what we have learned for the string data type. Even that is iterable and there are index values. So the first element is 12. So that's 0, 1, 2, and 3. Right. So these are the elements inside the list. So if I specify over here 2, so it is going to go 0, 1, and 2. So that is the nested list. That is 1 and 2. Right. It is referring to that one. Okay. So just like strings, lists have index values, and using that index value, we can actually access each element of the list. The major difference between list and the string, as I said before, uh, the strings are immutable, whereas lists are mutable data types. So I can easily do this before using the I'm learning the insert method. We need to understand this first. Okay, so I'm just telling you this and I'm showing you how to do it. So I can have something like L of 2. Okay, and now I will give a dictionary over here. So since we are not worked with dictionary, so I won't give dictionary. I won't use much of dictionary over here. Simply I will use a number 100. Right, so what I'm doing over here at the 0, 1, and 2, this is the second index value. So 0, 1, 2. So at the position of the index 2, we have a list, that is 1 comma 2, the elements of that list. Right, now at this place, I'm going to add a new element, which is an integer number, right? And if I print this, okay, you can see what happens over here. See, before that, we had this value, the list element, but now we have the element that is 100. This is possible with list because list are mutable data type. Okay, now that we have understood about the indexing, let us use that insert method. So L dot insert, and then maybe at the index value 1, this time I want to insert a new element, and that is maybe Python, which is a string, right? So the index value 1, I am inserting a string. So what is going to happen over here? Now already we have that Python at the index value 1. So I will do something else over here. Maybe I will have Java. Okay. Now what is going to happen over here is Java will be inserted at the index value 1, and the rest of the elements, that is currently at index 1 we have Python, right? So it will be shifted to the next index value. Everything, all the elements will be shifted one place to the next number, the next index value, right? So if I run this, what is going to happen? You can see I'm not printing that. Okay, so print L, and now you can see the output over here that at the index value 1, now we have inserted a new element, that is Java, and rest of the elements, as you can see, they have shifted one place, okay, towards the right. Okay, so this is how you can insert elements. Make sure that in case, okay, I will delete everything now over here, and we will take, again we will define an empty list. Okay, if I do something like this, L dot append, and I say 5 comma, and I say Python. Okay, now this list is an empty list. Right now there is no index value, or there are no elements, so there is no index value 5. But if you run this, if I just print L over here and I run this, you can see what is going to happen. Okay, I've used append. I'm so sorry. I need to use insert, right? This works with insert. So what is going to happen over here? It is not going to throw an error. the 5 index value does not exist. So what is going to happen by default, this element will be added as the last element, just like the append function. Now that we have one element, so again, if I do something like this, insert, and then I say maybe again I will use 5 and maybe Java. Still, there is no index value 5 because there is only one element, right? So if I print this, you can see that it is going to get added at the last. So it is not going to throw an error. So maybe in the exam, you can have such a code to predict the output. So please make sure that it will not throw an error and it will simply add that element to the end of the list, just like the append method. Now the next method that we are going to learn is the extend method. Okay, the extend method basically takes a iterable data type, just like a list. It can be dictionary, it can be tuple. Okay, so it takes a iterable data type and that will be added. The elements of that iterable items will be added to the list, and there is a difference how it works. For example, if I have l dot append, now using the append, and I'm just giving a list to this 1 comma 2, and if I print list, this is going to take as one element, and this will be the nested list. You can see there is an outermost list. Inside that we have only one item, which is a list, right? But at the same place, if I use that extend method, so what it does, it takes the data type, as I said, the iterable data type, and every element of that data type, okay, the iterable data type will be added as an individual element. So now if I run this, you can see what happened over here is I have given this list, okay, and every element of those list has been added to that list L. I hope this is clear. For example, if I already had this 1 comma 2, or let me take some other numbers because it gets very confusing. Now there are two elements, 34 and 56. But if I use extend, so the next elements will be added as 1 comma 2. Okay, so now if I run this, you can see the output 34, 56, 1 and 2. Had it been append, so this will be like the only third element will be added as a nested list, and that is the difference how it works. Now you can see that output over here. Okay, so extend takes the the data type that is iterable. So I can also have another data type. For example, if I have a string like Python, now what is going to happen over here? As I said, every individual or the elements of the iterable data type will be added to the list. So what is going to happen over here? Every individual, that is the characters, will be added as individual elements of the list. Now if I run this, you can see the output, right? So that is 34, 56, and the every individual character has been added to that particular list. Okay, so we can also have a tuple, we can also have a dictionary, okay, which we are going to learn in the future videos. Now, the fourth method that we are going to understand is the remove method. The remove method basically is going to remove that element, the first occurrence of that element from the list. How does this work like? Okay, so we have okay, let me just keep it as it is. So we will be having this list, right? 34, 56, and there are individual characters as independent elements of the list. And then if I do something like this, L dot remove, and if I say 56, okay, so 56, yes, it does have 56. Now if I run this and then if I print, okay, and you can see the output. This was the first list that we printed, which had the number 56, but now that 56 number has been removed from the list. Okay, had it been like, okay, we have 256, after this I can add l dot append, and then I will add one more 56 over here. And now we will see. Now what happens over here is, you can see this was the list. Okay, that was 34, 56, and then we have added these characters, and again I added 56. But what happens when I try to remove 56? It's not like all the 56 elements will be, the element with the number 56 will be removed from the list. It is only the first occurrence that will be removed from the list. So we can see that the first occurrence was at the index value 1, which has been removed from the list. Okay. Now, if we have something like this, maybe 100, now what is going to happen? Okay. At that case, in this case, it is going to throw an error. If the element does not exist in the list, it will basically throw an error that the X not in list. Now, the next method that we are going to understand is the pop method. Pop basically, it removes the element from the list, but it also returns that element. So the remove method basically will remove that element, okay, but it will not return that element to us as a for further processing. Pop method also removes the element, but we can also have that element. Okay, it returns that element. How is something like this? So the pop method is just like, it removes, by default, removes the last element from the list. And I can have something like this. Maybe A is equal to, since it returns that value. Okay. So I can then print A. Okay, so I have L dot pop, and you need to pass an index value. If you do not pass an index value, it will simply return and remove the last element of the list, and it will return that value. So what this is going to do, okay, we are going to print the list, and then we are going to pop the element from the list. Let us see what happens over here. As you can see, this was the list that we generated, and the last element was 56, and that value, you know the variable A will have that value, since that this method returns that value. It removes and returns that value, so we can catch that value in a variable A, and then we can print the value that is, which is in A. So I printed that, and which is 56, right? So this is how the pop method works. Now, if I give something like this, maybe, 2, okay, 2 at this time. So 0, 1, and 2, which is P. Let us see what happens over here. If I run this, okay, and 0, 1, and 2. Okay, let me just run this. Is there any confusion? Just a minute. Okay, that is 56. Okay, I'm not printing that list again, right? So that we'll come to know whether it is removed or not from the list. Okay, so I'm removing that P. So it will be catched. We are going to catch that element in A. We are going to print that, and then again we are going to print the list, right? And that particular list should not show P. As you can see over here, this is the list, right? Original list. Then we have popped the element at the index value 2. So that is P, right? And we have received that value in the variable A. We printed A, that is P, and then again we printed the list, and this is the new list. As you can see, we do not have the element P over here, right? So this is how the pop method works. Now, for example, if I have something like 10 over here, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have till index value 8. We do not have the index value 10. What is going to happen in that case? In that case, it will throw an error, that is the index is out of reach. Okay, so make sure in this case it will throw an error to you. Okay, and the last method for today that we are going to learn is L dot clear method, which will basically remove all the elements from the list. If I run this, okay, this is going to throw an error. So let me just, okay, I'll just remove this right now and I run this. So what this clear method is going to do, it is going to remove all the elements from the list, but that list will be there. Remember that. Okay, so I'm printing that L. So L is right now completely empty. So if you want to remove all the elements from the list, we can use the method that is called as the clear method. Okay, so I hope like these methods are very much clear, and one by one we have taken the examples. List is extremely important data type, and in the future as we start coding you will understand this. Okay, so I'm going to stop for today and we are going to meet in the next video. Bye for now.